All right, so this is going to be the video that goes over perfect square trinomials and how we are going to solve those. So these are the formulas for perfect square trinomials, and these are going to be the factors for those formulas. So the first thing that we're going to do is, so these are our steps. And the first thing that we are going to do is factor out a GCF if there is one. So we're going to start with this one over here. So I have 1x squared, 4x, and 4. I do not have a GCF between these three terms. So we can just have our polynomial as it is written right there. I'm just going to rewrite it so that way you'll know what we have on each step. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the a value. So we're looking for this value right here. And to do that, we are going to use that term right there. So our a squared term is x squared. Okay. And so to find our a, we need to take the square root of a squared. So our square root of x squared is going to equal our a, which equals x. So that is our a value right here. The next thing that we are going to find is our b value using the last term. So we're going to find our b value, which is going to be that one right there. And we're going to use our b squared, which is our last term. So our b squared in this case is a 4. So taking the square root of that is going to give us our b term, which in this case, the square root of 4 gives us 2. So that is our answer right there. Now, to see if this fits into our formula, we need to see if 2 times our a value times our b value is equal to the middle term in our equation. So we have 2 times 2, which gives us 4, and then our x value. And so we want to see if 4x is equal to the middle term. And if it is, it fits into our perfect square trinomial formula. And that means that our terms are going to be our a value and our b value squared, and the sign or operation that we're going to use in the middle right here is going to be the sign from our middle term. So I'm going to underline this whole middle term right here, and this one is addition, so we are going to be adding our factors right there. And that is how we solve a perfect square trinomial. Let's do our next example. So now in this case, we need to see if we have a GCF. Now looking, I have an x cubed, an x squared, and an x. They all have a variable, so I know that I'm going to be able to take out at least an x. Okay, then I'm going to look at 20, 140, and 245. Those all share a common factor. They end in zeros and fives. And I'm going to see if I take a 5 out, that's going to leave me with a 4x squared minus, let's see, using my calculator, 140 divided by 5. It's going to give me a 28x, and then I've got 245 divided by 5 plus 49. Now there are no other factors that I can take out of those three terms, so that is my GCF of 5x. Now we're going to look at our a value from our a squared. So I'm going to write my 4x squared. I want to take the square root of that number. That will give me my a. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of x squared is x. So there is my a value. Now we're going to do the same thing with our b, which is this last term, which is 49. I'm going to take the square root of that, will equal my b, and the square root of 49 is 7. Now I have my A and B value. I need to see if they equal the middle term. 2 times 2x. So see, because my formula is 2 times A times B. Okay, so that's where we get this 2. My A value right here is 2x, and then my B value is 7. So 2 times 2x is 4x. 4 times 7 is 28x, which 28x, that is my middle term. Awesome, they match. So now let's write our factors. So I do my parentheses, and it's going to be a squared. So I have 2x as my A, 7 as my B. Then I'm going to look at my original formula, or my original equation, and I have a subtraction right there, and that is my factors. Okay. Next problem. Okay. What do y'all notice about this problem right here? So compare what we just did, what I literally just did. Oh, one thing we forgot to do on this. This one right here. I did have a GCF that I took out. Gotta make sure to put your GCF in your final answer. Almost forgot about that. Okay. So now let's look at the equation that we have right here. I do not have a GCF between these three terms, so it's just going to be 4x squared plus 28x plus 49. And I want y'all to notice 4x squared, 28, and 49. Don't look at the signs right this second. If I notice that I have the same numbers, they can either be in the same order or they can be in the flipped order. So if I had 49, 28, 4, 28 would still be my middle term. If my first and my last numbers are the same or swapped, the middle number will be the same. So we do not have to go through all of these steps because we know what the factors of this polynomial are already. The only thing that's going to change, the only thing that changes between these two, this one is subtraction, this one is addition. So if you want to go through and check again, you can, or you can just say, I know my A squared is the same and my B squared is the same and my middle term is still the same, but I'm adding. So my factors for this one are going to be 2x and 7, and I'm going to be adding these two. So we can use work that we have already finished, and this one didn't have a GCF, so we don't need to put that 5x. We're just going to put the factors. So this is how we can use work that we've already done to make our lives a little bit easier. Okay? Next one, no GCF. So I'm going to be working with the same equation that I was given. I'm going to take the square root of x squared for my A value, which is just going to be a plain x. Then my square root of my B squared will give me my B, which is just going to be a 1. 2 times x times 1 gives me 2x, which is my middle term. Awesome, checks out, fits the formula. Let's write our factors. So the factors will be A and B, and the sign between the two will be subtraction. No GCF, so nothing else I need to bring down. All right, looking at our next example, I do have a GCF. So 40, 280, and 490. They all end in a 0. So the largest term that I'm going to be able to take out of these is going to be a 10. And if I divide out 10, that's going to give me 4x squared plus 28x plus 49. Oh, would you look at that? Same problem. Same exact problem. Okay? So we can go straight to our factors. Bring down your GCF of 10. Then I'm going to write this exact same thing down because I'm still adding. So using work that we have already done. So instead of having to go through all of these steps 3 times, I've gone through them once. I recognize that I'm repeating problems, saving myself time. Okay. 16, 40, and 25. I do not have a GCF between those. 4 and 4, 2 and 8. I could factor something out of these two, but there's nothing that I could factor out from this one. So we're just going to be working with the same exact equation that we are given. So my A term, using my first value, to find A, I take the square root, which is going to give me 4x, my A value right there. My B value is my last term. Okay, now I need to see if my middle term matches them. So 2 times 4x gives me 8x. 8x times 5 gives me 40x. Yes, they match up. Awesome. Makes our lives super simple. My A value, my B value, square it, and the sign from my middle term is a negative. We're going to do about 4 more examples. On this one right here, we do have a GCF of 3 that I can take out, which is going to give me an n squared plus 10 plus 25. So one of the great things about having a 1 in either our first or our third position is that we can use that reference chart that we made of our squares and our doubles. Give me just a moment and I will be able to pull that up. There we go. So I'm going to look for my square of 25 because remember this is our b squared value. So my b squared of 25, okay, gives me a root of 5. And so now I need to see if my middle number is double of my root. So if my last number is 25 and my middle number is 10, because 2 times 5 times 1, because the square root of 1 is 1. So if I have a 1 here, if this is the double in the same column, then we are good to go. So I don't have to go through and factor because it matches up with my my reference chart. So in that case, my A value is going to be the square root of this. My B value is going to be the square root of this. Make sure to bring down your GCF, square your factors, and copy down your sign. But just to show y'all, I'm going to go through my A's. So my square root of n squared equals n, which equals A. My B is going to be the square root of this. And then I check to see if that equals my middle term. So 2 times n times 5 equals 10n. Oh, I forgot to copy down my n. See what happens when we go through too quick. because I had an n right here. I did not factor it out, so I got to make sure and put it there. So it does check out to be the correct factors.